Good evening, everybody. The Music Fan is back, bringing smiles to the faces, knowledge to the people, and most importantly, music to the masses. Back with another Are You In? This time, we are taking a look at the newest album from the new Pornographers, entitled Continue as a Guest. Now, this is the 9th album from the indie rock supergroup New Pornographers. This is a collective of artists that have had other indie bands, whether in Canada or the United States, who have worked together since the 2000s. Some of the bigger names are Nico Case, AC Newman, John Collins, but to fill out the rest of the roster, we also have Todd Fancy, Catherine Calder, and Joe Siders. Previous albums include Mass Romantic in 2000, Electric Vision in 2003, Twin Cinema in 2005, Challengers in 2007, Together in 2010, Brill Bruisers in 2014, Whiteout Conditions in 2017, and In the Morse Code of Brake Lights in 2019. This is a band that I got into on the later end of the discography. I remember reading Rolling Stone as they talked about their favorite albums, and Whiteout Conditions was one of their favorite albums of 2017. I, as I always do, tend to listen to, at the end of the year, what are the consensus top 50 albums, and I checked this one out, absolutely fell in love with it. There's something about these like colorful, whimsical, multi-layered arrangements that are so much fun to sink your teeth into. It feels sometimes like you are floating on air as you're like listening to these multi-layered and like enveloping, kind of in a hugging way, arrangements. The interplay of voices between Neko Case and AC Newman are usually fantastic, and the harmonies are almost always incredible. From start to finish, those 11 tracks are so much fun. Honestly, thinking back, it's one of my favorite albums of 2017, even after all of these years. And it's honestly gotten like better as time has gone on. That being said, I took the time to listen to the rest of their discography a couple of years ago, and I'm not as big of a fan of their more celebrated works. Twin Cinema, definitely good, but it doesn't hold a candle to me to Whiteout Conditions. And then everything else has its bits and pieces that I enjoy, but on the whole, I always go back to Whiteout Conditions. In 2019, In the Morse Code of Brake Lights came out, and I also did enjoy that one, but not as much. I felt like the multi-layered parts, the whimsy of these arrangements weren't always there. To be fair, there were definitely some great songs on that album. Most notably, Falling Down the Stairs of Your Love was an incredibly awesome song. Love the bass line on there. Love the harmonies. If you've never seen the music video for it, it is one of my favorite music videos in recent memory. It's such a cool dance concept, and it fits so well with the whimsy of that song. That being said, it was not one of my favorite albums of 2019 because it felt like there was only so much of that mattered that they got from Whiteout Conditions. So, of course, I was hoping that this particular album would regain some of that momentum that Whiteout Conditions had. It's going to be a little bit tough, though, because with the pandemic, all these artists were recording virtually and in different studios. It does come off as a pretty solid, cohesive album. And the other nice touch here is they added a new layer to their sound in Zach Jankian, who plays tenor saxophone and soprano saxophone on this album. I will say right off the bat, those saxophone parts bring so much life into these arrangements. When it's at its best, like in Bottle episodes, it is mimicking the melody and the harmony lines that are so great on this song, especially in the bridge. And the cool part is that it multi-layers these ideas with such a also great attention to like the diction and the timing of what AC Newman and Neko Case are singing on the melody and harmony lines. There's like this nice staccato-ish approach when it's happening. By far, this is the best song on the album because it reminds me of stuff from Whiteout Conditions. It's colorful, it's whimsy, it has all these layers that are so interesting to listen to. And the other part to me is this is a band that really incorporates bridges very well. The romantic languages part from Neko Case adds such depth to this song. Easily one of the best songs that they've done in quite some time, and the standout highlight on this album. When the songs are good but not great, it's usually due to the saxophone bringing some life into here, whether it's this pulsing saxophone part on Cat and Mouse with the light, or if it's the horn parts on the bridge for Continue as a Guest, great harmonies there, or if it's the flowing saxophone of the atmospheric Marie and the Other Sea. It's also the sax lines on the short and sweet Firework on the Falling Snow, or it's the subtleties of the horn parts in tied with some of the verses on like Pontius Pilate's Home Movies, or Last and Beautiful, or even Wish Automatic Suite. When the saxophone is incorporated, it usually is to the benefit of the song. However, the biggest detriment to me for this album is the fact that it doesn't really go hard enough into some of these arrangements. Even though there is some great arrangements, it doesn't get to the multi-layered, colorful whimsy that I've been searching for since Whiteout Conditions. Instead, a lot of these arrangements are subdued. That's not to say that there are all bad songs. Cat and Mouse with Light, it does get a little bit repetitive, but I do like this subdued arrangement because it has this pulsing piano and saxophone part that works well with the vocal lines. Continue as a Guest has a very nice groove once the full band comes in. It is a little bit on the slower side, so it does feel chugging at times, but again, that horn part steals the show when it comes to the bridge. I just wish the vocals were a little bit more interesting. Marie and the Undersea, I love this like atmospheric vibe. It feels like the arrangement's a little bit underwater at times, almost as if it's the musical equivalent of feeling the pressure of COVID-19, whether that's literally as you're fighting for your life or figuratively as a nurse trying to deal with all these patients. I feel like it's one of the more apt songs on this album dealing with COVID-19, and the music fits it so well. Angel Cover, it's a short and straightforward alt-rock song. Great melody line, especially on that bridge, the why did you put your faith in a wild guess. And I do like the imagery of having this like dream of a holy melody and trying to interpret that into the real world. I think the vocals fit very well with that kind of idea. Firework in the Falling Snow, again, not amazingly memorable, but it is a sweet song, and the horn parts do help bring some distinction to the song. So there are some songs here where I'm like not fully gaga in love with them, but enough where there is something there to excite me for a little bit. But then there's, unfortunately, some songs are just like, to me, kind of really below them in terms of like what they bring to the table. And most of these, unfortunately, are either at the beginning or at the end. Really, really light, nice harmonies on the chorus, but the production just feels off, and the vocals feel so muddy to start this album. It doesn't feel cohesive, and like the melody just isn't super interesting to me. Pontius Pilate's Home Movies, solid bridge part, like I said. I do love the horns used throughout the second half. It's very simplistic, but brings a nice touch, but everything else is pretty forgettable, and like the chorus feels heavy-handed. But the rest of the song just feels pretty forgettable, and the chorus feels just kind of heavy-handed. The lines, now you're clearing the room just like Pontius Pilate when he showed all his home movies to all of his friends, yelling Pilate too soon. I get it, there's some time out there with their writing, but this just feels like a lame joke. But I really do love the first half of this second verse. A lot of what I'm gathering from the song is about the monotony of COVID life and being stuck inside. So the lines here, came out on the other side, some kind of agnostic, keeping a straight face, but at some point you lost it. A painting of a wasteland, beautiful, I guess, but I only like the art when it's changing the subject. Super interesting. That line of, I only like art when it's changing the subject, like taking away the subject on them and their problems, but trying to push it back towards somebody else. I think that's a really cool line. Also, in that first half, you have Last and Beautiful. I really, really love the dotted all the I's harmony between AC Newman and Neko Case. With that being said, the interplay is the only really interesting part to me on this song. And it's such a shame because like that song has so much potential with like just the nice interplay. Everything else is pretty forgettable except for that weird off-key solo in the end of the song. That just felt like what the heck is going on after such a cool part with the dotted all the I's. And finally, to close this album, we have Wish Automatic Suite. This is just a weird way to end the album. The main song isn't bad and it has some good harmony lines and sax parts, but the vocals are weirdly placed in the mix. And then like halfway through, it changes the vibe and it gets this "Meet me in the mirror maze" that felt weird. Like, it ruins the momentum of the song because it completely changes the gears in it, and it stays for at least a minute and a half or to 2 minutes. So something that could have been an interesting song just completely gets thrown out the window. Not necessarily a bad album. There's some good parts, and I do appreciate them trying to do something a little bit new with the subtlety. The horn parts definitely bring out something of a cool characteristic to this album. But it makes me just wish for, again, something a little bit more colorful and rich. I would love to hear what another album, the next one, where everyone can be in the same recording studio at the same time, and what would happen with this new level of color with the saxophones. If you gave me Whiteout Conditions with some saxophone ideas, I think you could come up with something super incredible and rich and so much fun to listen to. Fortunately, this kind of just misses the mark a little bit. So for me, I would say this is a pick and choose. And of course, you have to throw bottle episodes in there. But other than that, I would say throw in Continue as a Guest, throw in Angel Cover, throw Marie in the Undersea, and I would say Cat and Mouse with the Light. I think those are the 5 songs that I would be like, yeah, check this out. Not necessarily all of them are great, but I think that there is something interesting from each one of these songs. There is a chance I would say full listen would work. It is only 40 minutes, but there are some of these songs that kind of just break the momentum immediately with this album. So it's hard for me to be like, yeah, I'm going to listen to from start to finish and feel good about the experience. I hope that the next album brings a little bit more of that richness and that color that I've been missing from the last 2 albums. Still, there is a basis, a ground that they can build off from. If they bring back the saxophone in the next album, that would be super cool. So that's it for that review, but we have one last thing we have to get to before I say goodbye, and that is going over my 99th favorite album of 2022. And that, my friends, is Spiritualized with Everything Was Beautiful. I think this is such a super apt title for this album. It is 7 tracks. It is 44 minutes, so there is a lot of longer and denser material. However, there is so many great payoffs when it comes to these songs. They build so well, and there's so much raw emotion in these songs. Whether it's Always Together with You, as the narrator is singing about everything that they would do for this person. If you want a rocket ship, I would build a rocket ship for you. It feels kind of like childhood nursery rhyme at times, but the way that this song builds to a crescendo at the end is so beautiful, and it ties nicely into Best Thing You've Never Had, entitled the D song because it's in D major. I like the contrast of Always Together with You with this a little bit more straightforward rock song with a little bit more energy. Let It Bleed is another beautiful song with really soft moments, but then you get these horn lines that bring a little bit more bombacity to it throughout. Crazy is a beautiful ballad about love. Then the last 3 songs, again, a lot of great building on here. The mainline song makes it feel like you're on this train ride, and as like the parts build up and you get this like clarinet and you get a little bit of flute and some beautiful, almost whimsical moments at times. The A song, this one doesn't build as much, but it has this bombastic feel throughout. It's such a beautiful arrangement. And then finally, I'm Coming Home Again, which feels this more kind of bluesy and darkish song at times. But again, bass line's great. And over the 9 minutes, it builds to such a great crescendo. These are, again, arrangements that are going to be longer. But if you are willing to settle in and listen to them, there's so much great payoff. I'm not a huge fan of the lead singer's voice always, but I think there's great storytelling coming from him. And with that combined with what is going on in the music is such a cool ride. So if you didn't check out this album last year, highly recommend it. And that is my time. Thank you so much for watching. There are, of course, a few things that you can do if you did end up liking this video. First off, give a video a like if you enjoyed it. Number two, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. That way I know that you enjoy what I do and want to see this channel become bigger and better for the future. Number three, share this with your friends if you find that they would find it interesting as well. And number four, let me know other albums from 2023 that you would like me to review. I have a bunch on my waiting list that I want to get to. And of course, I need to fill out at least 100 of these to feel great about where I'm at with this channel. But I, of course, am always willing to listen to something new and something a little bit out of my comfort zone. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you want to hear, and I will try to get to it. So I know that the first two albums that I've reviewed coming back haven't been positive 100%, but trust me, we have a couple of albums coming up that are going to be highly praised. Let's just say that. So keep your eyes peeled for those. Until then, this is The Music Fan, and I'm signing off.